Hello, everybody. This is Jennifer Matarese, and you may be asking yourself, where the hell have you been? I wanted to make this little update just to make everybody aware of what's been going on my end and give you a little bit of information about what's going on now in regards to, disaster news. Clearly, there's been a lot that has been happening in the last 2 weeks. God love us. But personally, okay. So December was hard for a lot of us. It's the holidays. It's always hard. For me, it was very hard. I think I kind of crashed at a certain point. I did have some mental health problems that I needed to take care of. I have been exhausted. I haven't been sleeping. There's been a lot of stress, a lot of work, a lot of avoiding the holidays, personal stuff, that sort of thing. So I basically told myself at a certain point that forcing myself to make episodes and, do more work than I was already doing, which was a lot of work, was not good for my health, and it was not good for the quality of work that I could provide to you. So I told myself, okay, we're going to take until the middle of January, just kind of take a break, breathe, relax, not stress ourselves out about having to work or write or anything like that. Just do what we have to get by. If we have to take time off of the factory job, the dog camp job, whatever, take it. Because it's going to be a long few years, and we are all going to need to take the time that we need to be our best selves. So I am working on stuff. I just needed to dial that back a notch. If you feel like you want to help in any way, right now, there are people who need help way more than I do. So like I said, I didn't work in December, so I didn't get paid by Patreon. I took the money that I got in terms of anything from the podcast and put it towards Christmas so that I could at least have a good Christmas with my family. So that's not a worry. I am behind on bills, but that's my thing, not yours. Like I said, there are people who are way worse off than I am right now in this country and around the world. So that's what we're going to focus on right now, is that. Los Angeles is on fire. I don't know if you have noticed, but Los Angeles is on fire right now, which is why I am not even going to talk about anything else. I'm going to focus on Los Angeles. Right now it's really hard, I imagine, for those of you who are living in Los Angeles. It's also, very difficult for a lot of us who are living outside of Los Angeles and want to help. And the only thing that a lot of us can really do is just give what little money we can to the situation to help out. There are so many people online who are being critical and cruel and harmful to the people who are being displaced, losing their homes, losing pets and personal memories and documentation and loved ones to this fire. I don't feel like I have to ask the people who would listen to this particular podcast to be sensible, be calm, be rational. If you are not living in Los Angeles right now, to just kind of dial it back, do what you can to protect your own mental health in regards to getting mad at people on the internet. It's not really going to help you. I've had to tell myself more than a few times. There's a lot of misinformation, rumors, conspiracy theories. There's a lot of that online right now. People who are saying very hurtful things about those people living in California, but also doing other things which are hurtful. They're saying, they're spreading misinformation about fire trucks not being able to come into California because they supposedly didn't pass emission tests at the border, and so they can't come in, which is not true. Even the fire department in question, which is from Oregon, excuse me, said that this was misinformation. They all have to be checked before they go into a disaster zone so that your fire truck doesn't suddenly have a brake failure in the middle of a firestorm and leave those fire departments stranded. So this is not unusual for these trucks to be inspected. In fact, it is a requirement before they go into a situation like this. So please keep that in mind. You can correct people who are spreading that sort of misinformation. In regards to the hydrant situation, there are a lot of people saying, well, they're running out of water. Yes, that is the problem that is leading to these wildfires in the first place, because everything is so dry, because there hasn't been rain in 8 months in this part of California. It is dry as a bone. It is not supposed to be burning like this in January. These are summer fires. They usually stop by November, but give or take. But for it to be happening in January, that is a sign not only that the ground is as dry as a bone, but that lakes and things like that where you would get the water to put out these fires, also probably not very full. The water situation in Los Angeles and Southern California is very tenuous and very difficult. The fact that the ocean is right there doesn't change the fact that this is not an area that has a lot of naturally occurring water. If you've ever seen the movie Chinatown, you know what I'm talking about. But also, there's a really long history of Los Angeles at the very beginning, and having to fight for the struggle to get the water that they need to come down to the city. So there is also the fact that this is a once in a lifetime fire. This is one of the, it's the worst fire that Los Angeles County has ever seen. It is probably one of the worst fires that we have ever seen in the nation's history. And no hydrant system in the world is going to be able to stand up to a fire like this. So it really, you could have the best fire department in the world and they're still going to struggle with something like this. So there's that. The people who are saying things like, this is what you get for who you vote for, there is no disaster in the world that targets specifically the people who voted for certain elected officials, whether they be Republican, Democrat, in other countries, left or right, it doesn't matter. No disaster in the world is going to target one group of people who voted for one person or anything like that. So that sort of talk is incredibly detrimental. It really doesn't matter who they voted for. Your elected officials are supposed to help you when these disasters happen. And if they're not helping you, regardless of party, regardless of whether you voted for them or not, they are doing a disservice, not only to themselves, but to their position in authority. There are people online who are saying this is God's judgment against Los Angeles. And I don't think I need to tell the people who listen to this podcast that that is categorically false and cruel, and that it makes your God look like a horrible being that you shouldn't be following at all. But yes, you shouldn't be following a being who would do this just randomly to anybody who lives in Los Angeles, not just quote unquote the sinners, but everybody. Like, disasters are indiscriminate. They don't choose, pick and choose who their victims are going to be. They're going to target adults. They're going to target children. They're going to target non-voters. They're going to target elderly people. And it doesn't matter who they target. They're going to target everybody. And some groups of people are going to be affected more than others because of the way we treat each other as a society. What we need to do is be helpful to everyone, regardless of who they are. Even if you don't like somebody, even if you don't agree with somebody, it doesn't matter. The very low bar we should be able to establish is that at the very least, in a disaster situation, where disasters aren't targeting certain groups of people, they are random and destructive and traumatizing. And we should at least be able to say, hey, maybe we don't agree with each other on social issues, political issues, whatever. But at the very least, we can at least agree, I don't think you should be dead in a wildfire. I don't think you should be dead because of a hurricane. I don't think you should be dead in any of this. Now, we might have issues with people individually, and, if something terrible happens to specifically them, yes, okay, I can understand where you might say, okay, I'm not even touching this with a 10-foot pole. But for something like this, it is not like that. This is a very large-scale disaster, and it is hurting everybody. And there are also people who are saying things like the people in Los Angeles are all millionaires, multimillionaires with 3 homes, so it really doesn't matter if they lose their homes. First of all, the vast majority of people, we're talking like 98, 99% of people in Los Angeles are just regular, average, normal, everyday people. They don't work in Hollywood. And even if they do, they work like behind the scenes. They are carrying props, they are doing the lighting, and they are just living paycheck to paycheck like the rest of us. The homes in Los Angeles may look expensive if you look them up on Zillow, but I don't know if you guys remember, we had this housing crisis where houses became so expensive we can't buy them anymore. That's what's happening here. A lot of people have lived there for decades, and all of a sudden their houses are really expensive. Last year, a lot of insurances dropped their fire coverage for people who lived in this area, and so now with this fire, they are unable to afford to buy a new one. So this is a lot of people who are not celebrities, and it should be also noted that even the people that you recognize from TV shows, from movies and things like that, they aren't multimillionaires. One of my favorite things to watch, and I have talked about this multiple times, is Dropout. I love Dropout. I love the TV shows on Dropout. Now, one of the people who is on Dropout a lot on Make Some Noise is Josh Rubin. Josh Rubin is one of my favorite people on Dropout. He's so much fun. He is clearly having a blast. He does a lot of great impressions. He and his partner, I'm not sure if they're married, but his partner, his wife, they just bought a new house months ago, if I understand it correctly. They just closed on their house, and it's burned. It's gone. And they have set up a GoFundMe for them. And fortunately, it seems to be doing very well. And I'm sure that being recognized as Josh from Dropout really helps with that. But I'm sure that he is not a multimillionaire with 3 homes. This is their house, and it is gone. And I think we need to keep in mind that when you have people that you recognize and you see them on the news or you hear about them losing their homes, they don't always have, 14 million other homes or they don't have like millions of dollars in the bank and a bunch of different other homes that they could live in. And even if they do, losing a home is a devastating event. It is incredibly devastating. It is traumatizing, regardless of whether or not you can replace it or not. There are so many celebrities who are looking past the fact that they lost their own things, and they're doing what a lot of Los Angelinos are doing because they have lost everything. They are saying, okay, I have to take care of myself, as much as I can, but my neighbors are hurting. There are so many people who have lost their homes as well, and I need to help with that. So there are celebrities who can afford to donate a lot of money, who can afford to donate like $100,000, $1 million. I think I saw that Taylor Swift donated $10 million, which is extraordinarily kind of her. And I know it seems like a little bit in terms of how much she is worth, but that is still, I'm sure the people who will be using that money are grateful for what they can get. So any sort of donation to what is happening now, it may not be the last thing she donates. It doesn't really matter to me. Just donate what you can, if you can. And when it comes to people who can do that, that's great. But there are so many people who are going out and are doing what they can to give away free food, to give away clothes to people who lost everything but the shirts on their backs. And of all the people who are being so cruel and so hurtful on the internet about people who live in Los Angeles, or who are waving the victims of Hurricane Helene like a set of jangly keys that's supposed to distract you, there are so many people in Los Angeles who are doing everything right, who are taking care of one another and showing that there is a sense of community, a really strong family vibe with the people who are in LA. And it's so great to see. I'm just incredibly amazed at how warm and welcoming Los Angeles looks compared to some of the people online, and unfortunately some of the people in our government who are not responding in kind. So, the charities. If you have not donated to charity yet, I would strongly suggest doing so. I'm sure that there are people who have donated to things like the Red Cross, the Salvation Army so far. World Food Kitchen is always great to donate to. Chef Jose Andres is out there, I presume. World Food Kitchen, I know, is out there and helping people get fed and take care of themselves. The firefighters as well, getting them fed so that they can take care of things. Firefighters from Canada and Mexico have come, which, considering things in the news lately, is just incredibly kind of them to do. There is also the Anti-Recidivism Coalition, which, if you know anything about fires like this, is, but I think in California it's very well known that prisoners who are in juvenile detention centers and in youth detention centers, adult detention centers, prisons, those sorts of things. Some of them are recruited to work as firefighters. And a lot of times they're doing the grunt work. They're doing the dirty work. They're going in after the real firefighters, or I should say the professional firefighters, go in there and put out the fire. And they're going in and doing things like recovery and recovering bodies, those sorts of things, which can be traumatizing to them as well. People deserve the chance to reform and do better. And I've seen interviews with a lot of these firefighters who are just, regardless of the fact that they're only making like $30 a day, they're happy to be there to do whatever they can to help others. And so the Anti-Recidivism Coalition is gathering money, is fundraising to provide these youth firefighters, these youth detention folks who are fighting these fires, with money when they come out, scholarship money, so that they can take classes, so that they can go to school, so that they can better themselves, and so that they hopefully won't reoffend. And that is so great. So if you want to do something for them, that is awesome. There are just so many things that I can, say to you about what is going on in California. Obviously, it's not over yet, but what I can say is just try to be as kind as possible and try to, impress upon others that they should be kind as well. This is very difficult. And regardless of whether or not whatever you may think about Hollywood and the people who work there, Los Angeles is not just Hollywood. It is not just celebrities. It is not just actors. And even if it were, that wouldn't matter. This is awful. This is terrible. It is a horrendous tragedy. 24 people are dead at this point, and it is just something where it affects everyone. And it's not something that only targets the people you don't like. No disaster does that. Even with something like the Wilhelm Gustloff, where it was a Nazi transport, you're still looking at something where there are a bunch of children on there who never voted for the Nazi Party, who were never, got to make a conscious decision about being a part of that. So, at least at that point, you should be able to understand that there are innocent victims on a ship like that gets torpedoed and sunk. So, like I said, with disasters, they don't check your voter registration before they kill you. They don't check what you do for a living, how much money is in your bank. They just take everything. And so whatever you can do to make this world a better place, especially considering all of the things that have happened since the beginning of the year, the attack in New Orleans, what's going on in LA, all of that. It is really just a good thing to put out what good you can and to protect yourself when you need to. If you need to take a month and a half off to set yourself right and keep yourself from going overboard, to keep yourself from losing yourself, then do that. Do whatever is necessary to keep this world as bright as you can. Light as many candles as you need to. And I'm not, hopefully not so many that you start a wildfire, but that's beside the point. I mean, like figuratively light as many candles as you can. Make the world a brighter place. And if you don't feel like doing that, you need to step away from the situation. You need to not doom scroll all day. You need to get out of the headspace that may be putting you in a bad situation. If there are things that you cannot read, for example, that Vulture article about Neil Gaiman came out yesterday, and it is not pretty. So if you need to protect yourself from that, I can tell you personally, I had to stop. So things like that, you need to take care of yourself, take care of others. And when you can't, don't force yourself to do things that are going to harm you. So I am working on new episodes. Don't worry about that. I will be there. I just need probably a couple of days to get done with the 250th episode. It is not going to be about a fictional disaster because that is for our 100th episodes, 200th episodes, those sorts of things. But it's not about a disaster that's killed anything. Hint, hint, other than maybe some people's sense of shame. But it is a request, and between those two, you should be able to figure out what it is. So we will hopefully be hearing from one another. I will be talking to you later on this week. We'll see how it goes. But until then, take care of yourself and others and stay safe.